Shotgun to shotgun.
So welcome.
Greetings
Put
and
some
welcome.
greetings in the chat. Feel free to type anything in the chat as anything comes to heart or mind as we're doing the presentation. Hopefully some more people will be able to join us. We're going to open up for questions and answers a little bit towards the end. So feel free to pop a question in the chat also. So we're here to talk about one of the biggest challenges that we see in any kind of intimate relationship, which is communication. But of course, we're putting that in context with culture and nation building. So,
Okay. So, as we begin to talk about nation building, a lot of times we are missing, and this is Monwasha speaking, and I'm speaking specifically to the brothers. We get riled, we get excited, we get motivated. We read, we study, we work out, we do a variety of things, but we miss out on the true seed of nation building is relationships. And without us mating with a Black woman and raising Black children, there is no nation. No matter what we read, no matter what we study, no matter how we organize, no matter the music we make, there is no nation without a Black family. So the first step to nation building is family. And so, we want to try to seed that paradigm shift because I've been in a culturally conscious community for over 35 years and I see other than that. And so we want to talk about that paradigm shift and the number one problem that both mated and separated couples talk about. And we'll introduce this 4-part system that we developed as the Akoma House Initiative to address that problem.
so a little bit about us. We've been together for 20 years. This is some of the old school Monwasha, taking it back a couple of decades to when we were meeting, courting, and getting married. So the reason why we always like to share a little bit about us is because we've really personally been through a lot of things that can affect your communication and can affect your relationship. So we've had a long distance relationship. This was me. I was actually very happy visiting from Florida. We've also had a blended family. Monwasha had 3 sons when I met him. And, we've been through many things that we all go through. So what we're speaking of when we talk about communication or some of the definitions and principles that we've come to understand in an intimate relationship and a marriage and a family is really from tried and true couple decades.
But one of the first things that we did, and one of the first things that's necessary in nation building, before a couple can become, go through the stages of mating, courting, and nation building, a man has to go through the stages of rites of passage from malehood, boyhood to manhood. And a woman has to go through similar, but uniquely different stages of rites of passage in femalehood, girlhood, womanhood. And one of the things that we saw instantly that we had in common was that not only did we take initiations, which we'll get into because we have to do more than read, but we did read together. We read separately and we read together. And then there was every year, we took 12 books that we would go through once a month. Monwasha is an extremely fast reader as a professor and whatnot. But I kind of got faster, still striving to catch up to her speed. But, we would I picked 6 books, she picked 6 books, and we would go through all 11 areas of human interaction: education, entertainment, fashion, food, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And we would find a book that we would share. And this worked well, especially when we were in a long distance relationship from New Jersey to Florida. keeping our minds unified.
So as Marshall mentioned, we also went through rites of passage, and we've done this at separate times. So Marshall before me, this is Marshall in Divine Sacred Kingman. This is Monwasha with Sacred Woman. So this is with Queen Afua and Baba Haru. We were really fortunate that they were able to do an initiation in person, which was amazing. And that was like about 20 years ago for me.
Yeah, it was a little over 20 years ago for me.
But we've also done them together, and we're in the process of one now. So the thing about initiation is the actual practice or the application of what might be, you know, knowledge that you've gotten from another person, whether it's a book or your family. You know, it comes to a point where you actually get initiated, and that is part of the reason why we are a Coma House initiative, because we really believe in the application.
Right. We also did the academic initiation together. We both worked on our masters. I was able to convince Monwasha to come back like, yo, I'm going to Lincoln University in this master's program. You should come with me and rock this out with me. And, you know, so I pulled her out of that school from Miami. We ain't on this, but, you know, we were able to even do, you know, secondary education together. So the educational piece is something that we talk about in Unified Mind, which is one of the 7 principles of an Acoma love, that you got to have a unified mind. And you don't have to do everything together as we did, but we're just giving you a background to show you how this is parts of the building bricks that built the house of love that we have.
We actually got married while we were going to.
Yes, while we were at.
And you know, one of the things that we did was we did ask people in our school life and our home life, what was the most important thing that we should be aware of. And little do we know what they really did, whether it was the older couples or the younger couples, if it was friends who had been married, friends who had even been married and been divorced, right? Our colleagues, everyone said that communication was the most important thing. And sometimes the conversation stopped right there, right? We just said communication. We're like, okay, you're right. We communicate, but it's actually what is communication that we saw we need to go deeper.
Right.
And it was also at this time
that we developed Acoma Day. So most of the people around the world know us as the founders of Acoma Day, the cultural alternative to Valentine's Day, celebrated from February 14th to February 20th. It has 7 virtues, 7 principles, 7 symbols, and it really deals with the basic understanding that the symbol that we commonly miscall the heart is an ancient African symbol of the sacred science of soul mating called the Acoma. And so we reposition that into its proper cultural context, and then really letting people know about the principles and the virtues of Black love, which are unique. And so we've been blessed that Acoma Day is lesser known, but well known in some ways, and is you know, celebrated in 14 countries around the world. But then we went deeper and decided, you know, we knew from the time we were working on our masters together that we were going to build a culturally based counseling firm. And so we started the Acoma House Initiative, which is a culturally based coaching, counseling, consulting firm for individuals, couples, families, and organizations. And we basically teach what we call the art and science of Black love culture in a series of things that we call cultural mastery technologies, or KIMIT for short.
And through that, we've been featured in a couple of things in pop culture. So, you know, some magazines, some television, news, but we've also had the opportunity to be in a lot of startups, which are working on, you know, Black people, whether we are in the United States or in the diaspora, and really coming to understand what is unique to us in order for us to really thrive where we are, and, you know, make sure that we have a foundation and a future that is going in the direction that we want.
So we usually don't read things that we post, you know, we don't like that style, and we know that our people could read. But this one is something that I have to read because we throw around the word culture. And one of the things that I say about communication, especially in an intimate couple or family, but in all relationships, social, professional, et cetera, we speak common languages, whatever they are, Kiswahili, Adinkra, you know, whatever kind of language you speak, symbolically or verbally, we have to agree on terms. And we use the word culture a lot. and we don't have a working definition that we understand. So we say that culture is a group value system of interdependent core beliefs that manifests as thought, speech, action, sensory perception, emotional response, symbol creation and recognition, logic progression, and formulaic presentation, which is then transmitted repeatedly through the 11 areas of human interaction, including economics, education, entertainment, fashion, food, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. So, to say it in a quip, a culture is a group value system that permeates all our thought, speech, and action.
And that's very important for us as we talk about love, because what your value system is going to be what your thought, speech, and action is, how you interact with each other, but definitely all things that you're looking at, perceiving on a subconscious level or a conscious level. So we talk a lot about the Akoma, which is this Adinka symbol right here. And we, say that this is Akoma is a Khan word and a Dinka symbol, but that this symbol really is found throughout the world, just even in nature. It's a natural symbol. But as we like to talk about it for soulmates and harmonious relationships, we talk about the origin being here at the bottom of this symbol, and that the two parts coming around are really representing the man and the woman on their individual paths, where they're separated from this origin or spiritual beginning, only to reconnect at the mind, which points back down to their spiritual beginning. So this is really like the humps of life, your individual soul paths. But the science of soulmating is an indigenous and Black concept that was brought to the world, where you are separating from that spiritual realm and reconnecting as a unified entity, right? So sometimes that even just in and of itself is a paradigm shift from where we're introduced to the word soulmate, where we're introduced to this symbol, sometimes is through Valentine's Day or through, knowing this as the heart. And so part of what we're saying when you come with culture is that you come from a cultural perspective that is your own.
And so we also have to define this word love, because we see this word, people talk about it, and it's a lot of misinformation around love. So culturally speaking, love is a perpetual and holistic consciousness, and it's characterized by an intense emotional affinity to understand and unify complementary people, places, and things through reciprocal energy exchange and congruently demonstrated through our thought, speech, and action. So love is a perpetual consciousness, and it's between complementary energies, and it's reciprocal. That's really, really important.
But what are the truths of love, or how is love, proven to us? So really we talk about culture again, and that your values and beliefs are going to be revealed in whatever language you use for love, whatever the symbolism is that you are using for love, the rituals that are around love, and then the ceremonies of love.
So we talk about the 7 areas of love culture, which is birth, the welcoming of a child, rites of passage, the discovering your life purpose and preparing yourself for the individual and collective manifestation of your purpose, courting, including mate selection, and then marriage, which is your commitment to the Most High through your partner and your 2 families, tribe and nation. Then sex, your spiritual ascension, your resurrecting of the God energy that is alive in us as Black men and women. Conflict resolution, how you mate together, harmonious mating and problem solving. And then your love legacy, what you contribute to the greater nation and what you leave as the launching pad for your children or the people who watch you and grow and learn from you.
So that brings us all the way back around to communication. So when we asked everyone, what would be really important for our marriage as we were getting married, everyone said communication, but sometimes that was not really defined. So what we came to understand is that communication is the process of understanding and sharing thoughts, emotions, and behavior with people, places, and things. which is a little bit different from just talking or even just
running your
listening
mouth
and talking. So what we also saw as we got deeper into counseling and, really started to see what other people were saying about communication is that a lot of the people who separated and were telling themselves that they were in so-called failed relationships, whether that's a divorce or just a separation, 45% of those people said that they had unrealistic expectations about the impact of communication. So again, I think, if you speak English and you say the word communication, people almost say, of course, that's a given. But really, it's deeper levels to that because we come with expectations that are realistic and some of them are unrealistic, but we also don't even know how to communicate our expectations or how to resolve conflict.
So we talk about the art and science of Black love culture, and the art involves just the philosophy, the approach, or what we commonly call the why of Black love. And then the science is the methodology or the technique, or what we call the how of Black love. So you got to know why Black love is important, and then you got to know how to do it if you want a nation build and be successful.
And so now we're going to go over those elements of good communication. And the first element for good communication is purpose. So on every, on the foundation of communication, you have every communication, even the smallest communication has a purpose. And sometimes we don't realize that as the speaker, and we definitely don't realize it as the listener because we're not in the mind of another person, right? So whether it's just saying good morning is a way to connect, or whether it's saying, you have something that's just been on your mind that you really want to get off of your heart and mind, whether it's communicating like business, whether it's communicating, an intention or, a disappointment, whatever it is, knowing that you're going into something with a certain purpose is very important. That can clear up so much conflict right there.
Yes.
Is you as a speaker being aware of your purpose, because sometimes we have like a hidden agenda, which maybe we're just talking to put someone down, or maybe we're talking to prove a point, or maybe we're talking to, be facetious or whatever that is, right? So there's so many different elements that we might actually be going into communication for. So it's very, very important for us to know our purpose. And just that in and of itself can take a minute for you to really get to that level of awareness or that level of evaluation of the last time you were talking or the next time that you want to talk.
And so next, after purpose, we move into thoughts and feelings. And thoughts and feelings are really the mind and the heart. And it really is important to centralize and balance thoughts and feelings when we're having communication, because a lot of times, we're very expressive, we're artistic, we're God incarnate as Black people. But a lot of times we're not in alignment with the thought that brought us to conversation, or the feeling that we have, and the feeling that we are looking to inspire. So a real good inventory check on purpose, thought, or feelings is to just run through quickly. What is my purpose here? What is it that I'm thinking or want my listener to think? And what am I feeling? And what do I want them to feel? Because if you can honestly answer those questions, a lot of conversations would go differently. As the listener, you can do the same thing. What's the purpose? What's the thought? What's the feelings of this person? And what do I feel the purpose is that they are trying to give me? What am I thinking and what am I feeling as I'm listening to what they're saying?
This is what a lot of times people think is communication, is just speaking and just listening. But even that, there's so many layers to speaking. So like Masha was just saying, really being able to know your thoughts, know your feelings, and then go into any conversation with that would change the way that a lot of us approach speaking and listening. So, and we know this, like if you miss someone and you see them, you're gonna, chances are, express that, be loving, make eye contact, maybe put away your devices. You're not gonna take it for granted, right? But if you're upset with someone and you come together, that's gonna be obvious too, in the way that you, the tone that you use, the words that you choose. So there's so much to speaking, really more than just letting something come out of your mouth. And there's so much to listening than just being quiet. You know, so the same types of things apply of putting your devices away, making eye contact. I like to tell people to listen to be convinced, you know, like really be curious about what the other person is saying, because you may have some of these skills that another person doesn't have. And we can always tell how a conversation goes, who is the most skilled, right? You don't come down to a person's level when you are more skilled, you help elevate them the same way that we do with children who might have a limited vocabulary. We look at their body language. We, you know, listen to some of the words that they are saying, and we try to fill in, and we see if we're correct, right? By saying, "Are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you, you know, do you want something to eat? Do you want a snack?" Like, we go over a couple of things before we give up on the conversation. So this is really important for us to take a new approach to who am I as the speaker and what am I speaking for? And then who am I as the listener? And that both of those people have a job to do, not just being quiet and putting everything on the speaker, and not just talking on and on and on without purpose and without monitoring your thoughts and feelings.
And the final piece to the 4 steps, we talked about purpose, we talked about thoughts and feelings, we talked about effective speaking and active listening. But now what we want to deal with is something that we're really, really suffering from as Black people. And that is the misunderstanding of the complementarity or the science of compliments. And that is just simply this: men are not women and women are not men. And because we've been through a ma'afa and because we have lost contact with our initiations, we can't grasp this. So men want women to be like men, and women want men to be like women, and that's just not going to happen. And so what happens is when we understand basic things like this rudimentary level of the masculine energy thinks, acts, feels, and then acts, where the feminine energy feels, acts, thinks, and acts. As a counseling firm, when we're dealing with men sometimes, for example, I might say to a brother, if we're working with a couple, so, yo, my brother, what you just heard her say, how do you feel about it? He'll go, well, I think so and so and so, and I'll interrupt him, and I'll interrupt that pattern of thought and say, bro, I don't care how you think. I love you, but I don't care how you think. What I'm asking you is, how do you feel? And you will watch the brother go through a real experience where he isn't, that doesn't even register for him. And he has a hard time understanding that in order to connect to a woman, you have to lead with feelings, which is different than the way we naturally are a lot of times as men, especially in our Black American culture, where we have this kind of misogynistic hatred toward feeling. So we say take emotion out of it and all of these other little terms that we have, but yet everything we love, like sex and sports and everything else, we demonstrate in an emotional way. So I think it's very interesting that we get on that. But, you know, in synopsis, I would just say that men are like a key and women are like a lock. We work together, but we are not alike. And so together, if we work together, we can unlock the room of many mansions, or we could protect our nation from those things that would cause it harm.
So overall, good communication is all of those things. So it's the state of creating external understanding of the internal thoughts, feelings, and desired actions of complementary energies using full sensory expression and harmonized modality representation. So that's a little bit of what we're about to get into. Your foundation is purpose. You have to be sure that you know your thoughts and feelings and monitor the speaking and listening that's happening. And then understand your audience. Who are you talking to? You're going to approach the same conversation differently if you're talking to a man than if you're talking to a woman. And if you can do those things, you'll have good communication going back and forth with each other.
So, you know, naturally in our cultural expression, we're multisensory stimulants. You know, our ancestors understood that if I show you something, you'll remember like 30% of it. If I, if I tell you, you'll remember 30%, forgive me. If I show you, you may remember like 50% of it. But if you do it, your memory retention goes up to 70% and over. And if you do it enough, you'll become it. And so this is the reason why African initiation is just not study. It's not just reading books. It's not just quoting elders. It is really an initiatory process that is specific and that will challenge you on your specific strengths and weaknesses. And it really is the ultimate in terms of education process. But we have in Black culture, we have 7 elements that we look at that our ancestors say everything in the universe is made up of magnetism, electricity, light, ether as the central middle element, and then gas, liquid, and solid to create what we call matter. In Western culture, you really only deal with the last 3. So the other 4 are actual elements that are the condensation of the mind of the divine manifested into physical form. And so we could go off into the quasars on that. But the point is that in African initiation, the elements are always present. So in our counseling firm, when we work with people, we have what we call initiation rituals or love rituals that we actually do with couples, not just talking to them. We actually do things with them that create the ritual experience.
So some of those rituals are things like using a sand timer for balanced communication. So this is an exercise that we do where you just use a 2-minute timer. You can use your phone. You can use an actual sand timer. We like to use the actual sand timers because there's that 3-dimensional representation of the element, and you actually get to see the sand, which then rolls over into the senses, right? So we do back and forth between harmonizing the elements and harmonizing the senses. If you have a person who is very fiery, you might want to use water, right? If you have a person who is talking a lot, you might want to condense the amount of time by limiting it to 2 minutes. So this is really for balanced communication, where a person would speak for a certain amount of time, flip the sand timer, and either, receive, listening, so hear back what they said, or the next person could speak for a certain amount of time. So we use this in different ways to help balance communication.
We have a speaking system that we use called Feel, Understand, Do. We developed it. We teach it to thousands of people. We started teaching it to some other therapists who are trying to move toward a cultural-based model. But Feeling, Understand, Do is a speaking sequence that's really dope. It really incorporates the male, the female psychology, the internal, the external, the thought, speech, action, and the bridge of understanding, because in all communication, understanding is the bridge that makes communication effective or ineffective. Whenever we have miscommunication or whenever we disagree, we don't understand where somebody is coming from, or in practical speak, I don't even know why you bugging like that, or I don't even know why you thinking like that, or I don't even know why you talking like that. I don't know why you doing what you're doing. All of these things represent, misunderstanding. And so understanding is the bridge, but we want to be able to, in an instant, say what our feeling is. Then we want to give a deeper understanding why, and then we want to give the person an actual request. Oftentimes, like for brothers, for example, when we're talking to women and they may go on and talk for like 20 minutes, and we like, damn, you talked about like 8 different things. I don't even know what you want me to do with what you're saying. Like you said this, you said that, you talked about your dad, you talked about something in high school. What do you want me to do? So this technique of Feel, Understand, Do, what it actually does is it synthesizes. You label a feeling in 5 seconds or less, one feeling. Then for like a minute and a half, you talk about the understanding of why you feel that way. And then you give in the last 20 seconds a specific request. Not like, I just want you to understand me more or be more supportive. That's too general. It's like Tuesday at 4 o'clock, I want to meet and work on this challenge, or, I want you to specifically stop doing this at this time. So the feel, understand, do technique that we use it with the sand timer and in 2 minutes. So 1 minute, like 5 seconds, you say you're feeling, and you literally say, I feel blank. And then the next for a minute and a half, what I want you to understand about that is blank, 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 blank. You go on for a minute and like 25 seconds. And then in the last 25 seconds or 30 seconds or so, you're saying what I would like you to do is, or what I would like us to do is, or what I would like you to stop doing is blah, 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 blah. And then the listener then switches roles, and for a minute, they recap what they said. I hear that you feel this. What you want me to understand this is this. And what you want me to do is this. Is that correct? And then the speaker can say yes or no. Now, this whole round took 3 minutes. Now, imagine if we were this purposeful and this structure in our communication, because we be talking for like hours and hours, and we don't ever get to the understanding. We don't get to the understanding. We don't get to the core feelings, or we don't understand what the action is we should be doing to move to where we want to go.
So Hassan volunteered.
Okay.
Somebody. So we're going to come back around. So
okay.
The next one we're talking about is just setting the sacred space for communication. So in this ritual, we talk about the ash circle, which is just, again, using a certain element to set sacred space. So you can do this inside with ash, you can do it outside with ash, but the idea is that once you have this space set up, you're going to step into it and do something, do something that is now, you set the tone. So a lot of times in communication, we bring up the conversation at the wrong time and we bring it up in the wrong place. So I'm sure if that has ever happened to you, just put a thumbs up.
Yeah, don't talk about how you don't like her mom right after sex.
And this just happens. Some people are.
We see some thumbs going up.
Some people are night people, naturally. Right. Some people are morning people. So just sometimes that can throw you off. Some people, are coming into our space. So like you live with someone and you're thinking about something and you're home already. Sometimes the person entering in is the reminder that you want to talk about something, but they're literally just coming in off of traveling, off of thinking about whatever they're thinking about. Maybe they didn't even use the bathroom yet before you're bringing up a conversation. So part of setting sacred space is, this is something that our ancestors have done in every culture, is be able to transmute energy, right? So when you say it's time for a conversation, you set that up a certain kind of way. When it's time for eating, you set that up a certain kind of way. When it's time for a bath, when it's time for a wedding, right? When it's time for a funeral, when it's time to go to bed, like we have a certain way to let ourselves know and work with the environment that we're in. And this ash circle is for that purpose, like really saying, hey, we're going to have a conversation about our relationship every Sunday. And we're going to set the tone by putting ash out. And actually we do this exercise back to back, which is a little bit of an adaptation of what Sompo Fusome said in her book, The Spirit of Intimacy. But this idea of having an ash circle set between us where we're not looking at each other now. Now we're not focused on the eye contact. We're sitting, spine to spine, lining up the 7 major chakras, feeling the vibration of each other's voice because we're actually touching back to back, and we're listening and talking from that space. So this is another thing that is not necessarily about the theory, although we can understand it. It's about the practice and doing it.
Right.
So what we wanted to offer everybody who's listening is, if you're interested in more information about the Akoma Day book, you can visit this bit.ly link. It's just bit.ly/Akoma Day book. Or if you would like to really do some of these rituals, we're offering anyone who is on this conference 50% off by using the word Akoma. And that is another bit.ly link, bit.ly, Akoma Heart to Heart. So this is how you can really have heart-to-heart conversations. So what we want to do towards the end is practice this, feel, understand, do, and then also answer any questions. So let's take Hassan, you can take yourself off mute, or I can. So now Masha explained the feel, understand, do. So what you're going to do is we're watching the clock. you are going to have this sequence in 2 minutes, right? So what you have to think of is a dominant feeling that you have, right? So it can be anything along the spectrum of feelings, but you're going to label it with a word because we want to give just one feeling that rises to the top. And we are human beings, so we're multidimensional. Sometimes one of the challenges in communication is that we list 3 or 4 feelings, which makes it difficult for a person to keep up with us. So you want to pick one, and you want to say, I feel blank, which only takes about 5 seconds. Not even, that took 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So where you want to spend the majority of your 2 minutes is in the understanding. So if me and you are having a conversation and you want to say, I feel whatever you feel, you want to, after that, for like a minute to maybe a minute, 15 seconds, you want to go into the 360 degrees of describing that feeling and how you came to that feeling. So I tell people it's like the who, what, when, where, why, how, whatever comes to your mind to describe that feeling. And then the last couple of seconds, like Monwasha said, is for you to say an action. So that's just, I would like you to do, I would like to do, I would like us to do, something like that. But your aim is to use these 3 words, because even as a listener, when you're really practiced in your own personal relationship, someone will be looking for those 3 words. So they'll look for, you feel, what you want me to understand is, and what you want me to do, us to do, or what you want to do is whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So before you start talking, you got to have the feeling. And you got to kind of know the action that you want at the end. The middle could develop as you're talking. Because as you start talking, you get another, visual or another representation.
Trigger, something will come to your mind. You know what I mean? And depending on the relationship, it depends, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're talking to your children, if you talk, because you use this technique anywhere. I use it with strangers sometimes. You can use it, but in this case, we're talking about the intimate relationship. So as you're doing it right now, just talk as if Monwasha was her, or as if you're looking in your mind to that sister that you're talking to, and just, like it's just you and her. I feel so-and-so. And what I want you to understand about that is, blah, 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 blah. And what I would like for you to do, or what I would like us to do, is whatever. And we're gonna keep this time. If you a blabbermouth like me, you're going to see how short 2 minutes is. But if you struggle to elucidate your ideas, you're going to be like, oh, I'm done. And we're going to be like, yo, that's 15 seconds. And for the listener, that is just not enough depth to get true understanding.
Let me say one more thing. So I say the who, what, when, where, why, how, because I taught English. I still do teach writing. And that's some of the descriptive language that we use. But I also tell people to use, we have 7 senses as well in Indigenous Black thought, right, and practice. So you also want to say, say you're saying happy. What does happy look like, sound like, smell like, taste like, feel like? What are the thoughts behind happy and the emotions behind happy, right? Any feelings that come up. So to help you talk for a minute and a half and to really explain the feeling that you have, you're looking at really descriptive conversation. Because sometimes some of the conflict is that we don't agree on the meanings of words, or we just don't get the same images when people use words. One person might say, I'm really, really angry. But because you're not yelling, cursing, demonstrating, the other person doesn't think you're actually angry, right? So sometimes going into a little bit of a description is how you're going to close the gap. And what we're saying communication is a bridge of understanding. So that's what you're doing. You're going to say the feeling, but really go into being descriptive with it. And then after that, let someone know what you would like them to do. Even if it's just, I would love for you to listen to me more uninterrupted. I would love for that to happen like once a week for 30 minutes, like really letting somebody know what that expectation is the best way to go full circle in 2 minutes. So after saying all that for like 5 minutes, it's now time for you to go. So as soon as you say, I feel, whatever you feel, we're going to start the timer.
Yeah.
I normally need time to get my thoughts together. So this is freestyling right here.
Yeah, that's good. That's good money.
So it's good that you volunteered. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, brother.
Okay, so
Talk to Black people. Tell us what you feel about us as Black people, what you want us to understand and what you want us to do.
I don't even know the word. I don't know the word.
Okay.
But let me say, I feel like we don't take us seriously.
So maybe like, I feel disappointed. I feel
Frustrated.
frustrated.
I feel frustrated.
All right, here we go.
Because we don't take us seriously. And what I need you to understand about that is it makes me frustrated. It makes me disappointed. It makes me less positive about the future at times. It makes me want to focus my energies elsewhere. I don't know. What I would like for us to do is to take us more seriously. When we have the opportunity to do things to move us as a people forward, I would like to see us run to each other. I would like to see us support each other. I would like to see us go out of our way for the idea that we all we got, and all we have is what we need to make us great.
That's
Okay.
excellent. That's excellent. Where's he at?
So I think that you had a couple seconds left, but you basically used the 2 minutes. So now I'm gonna just say what I heard. So what a listener would say is, I heard you say that you feel frustrated, and what you wanted us or me and us to understand is that, it's disappointing, and that, we are not taking care of each other, not supporting each other. And that sometimes that makes you feel less positive about us, and makes you feel like you want to put your energy someplace else. And what you would really like for us to do is run towards each other and support each other, and know that we have everything that we need to really be able to do better, to do more, and to solve all of our problems. And then you would tell me if I was right or not.
That is right.
Okay.
All right.
So now,
So I wanna say something to that, because I thought that was, what are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that that's your opportunity, right? So this would, and I didn't even take a full minute. I maybe took a little bit less to summarize, but that would be your opportunity to say, no, you skipped that whole part about me saying, I want to go direct my energy someplace else, right? So the things that you heard yourself develop and describe that were important to you, if a person skips over it because they're focused on something else, or they just didn't, hear it, or they didn't remember it, that's your chance to say, well, actually, you forgot one thing, right? And then this is how maybe we're talking about a 2-minute speaking and 1 minute listening, so a 3-minute sequence. But if you stretch this out a little bit for a 5-minute conversation for the back and forth, or even a 10-minute conversation, you can go to a lot of depth without it taking a long time, by either letting both people have that 3-minute round, or saying, hey, no, you skipped this, and let me clear it up for 30 seconds. Or even hearing yourself sometimes when you're the speaker, you can say, you know what, I didn't go over enough sight. I didn't go over enough sound, So maybe let me tell the person, when I see Black people doing this, 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 and this, then I get even more frustrated. Or when I hear somebody call somebody this, 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 and this, that just makes me be like, you know what, I'm packing up. I'm going to do something else, because I just don't feel, so giving those extra examples, when you get your feedback from the listener, that's how you're going to be able to gauge your understanding all of the time.
Right. I think that's excellent feedback. I think you did an excellent job, bro.
I do too.
Definitely proud of you to step up, number one, and express a feeling. Number two, what we see, Black people are just so amazing. Couples sometimes really struggle with this exercise when we do it with them. And we work with them. In about 2 weeks, they become masters at it, because it's really a 3-minute round. And what you see is that, somebody either talks too much and they got to learn how to be succinct. Somebody doesn't talk enough and they got to learn how to really stretch it out and be more alliterative. But, after a while, it becomes like second nature, and you start to see the value of having an order of operations to communication, which we don't have. But I want to speak to the actual subject that you made, because, I definitely can relate to you. And, what I'm saying? We as a people, man, I as a therapist, I tell people often, yo, we sick, right? You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of times our idealism, as we all begin our own various healings, we love our people. So we want to heal them. We want to see them in a healed place. But, a lot of times in certain cultural circles, political conscious circles, people are, they're a little stand backish when I use the word sick all the time. But I use that word because not as some kind of label of disrespect, but an acknowledgement that our solution is healing. And so, we oftentimes are looking for very sick people to act well. And it can drive us crazy. It's like being in an emergency ward and you're dealing with somebody who's, they've been riddled with bullets and they're hanging on to their life, and they're like, why aren't you eating a certain way? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? It's been 6 months and you're still, like, I just learned how to walk again, my brother, you know what I'm saying? And so I feel your passion, because I relate to you, what you're saying. I have been there many a nights, like, you know what? It ain't nowhere to go though. We the best of the best. So we're in a condition that's the worst of the worst sometimes. So it's like, I wish, I always laugh. We laugh a lot of times when we hear brothers and sisters say, you know what, I'm leaving Earth, or I'm leaving this or whatever. I'm tired of dealing with our people, you know what I mean? And we all have been there, whether it's in our intimate relationship, whether it's in our families, and especially when any of us who are leaders, if anybody is a leader under the sound of my voice, understand this: you're on a divine mission. You are the head of a spear. And if you know anything about the dynamics of war and the head of the spear makes the incision, but it's the shaft that does the most damage. And the head of the spear doesn't ever really see, I'm speaking metaphorically, doesn't ever really see the damage that the shaft does. Its job is to break through. And then the shaft comes through and does the damage. So, I know, like with the Zulu, real nice with the spears, and many different people are real nice with the spears. They teach that, like if we can get the head in, it's like a mouse or something. I know growing up in the hood, they used to be like, you got to plug that hole, because if a mouse can get their nose through, the rest of the whole body could get through. And that's a weird metaphor, but it's really the same thing when you talk about leadership making a blow, that you think of any leader who we admire throughout the lineage of our people. Very rarely did they experience the bounty of their work. Oftentimes we are exalting them in a like a post life recognition. And I'm not saying that you got to die to see the benefit of our work, but what I am saying is that oftentimes a doctor in triage never sees the person that they worked on completely healed. They never get to see that. Like, I stitched you up, I got the bullet out of you, but I don't see you 2 years, and they move on to the next sick person. You know what I'm saying? And so what they deal with is sickness. They don't deal with 2 years later, that person comes back and say, hey, I got my life together. I did this and I did that. And now look at me. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, damn, you know what I mean? Monwasha's an educator. I'm a therapist. We came together and created this firm. We're both educators now. We're both therapists now. But a lot of times we fix people up, send them on their way, and get some more sick people.
I do want to say that as a listener in a real dynamic, after you confirm, what you heard, if it's your turn to talk, you can stay on the same topic, So right. I might say something like, I heard, I feel sad that you are frustrated, right? And I really would love for you to be able to boost yourself up and do some things that give you, life. Because sometimes when you're the person who is the one who is healing and who is the one who has the vision that you're holding for everyone else, it can be exhausting and tiring, and you don't feel like it's a reciprocal relationship. So I might then build up to saying, what I would love for you to do is let me know some things that make you happy, bring you joy, that I can do that would alleviate some of your frustration, right?
Right.
So you don't always have to flip and talk about yourself, but this is what I mean when I'm saying listen to be convinced, because sometimes what we do before we confirm what a person's saying, we jump to those types of things. And I'm super solution oriented, and very linear sometimes, even as a woman. I think it's part of the teaching and just, some of my militant behavior where I can skip over really validating someone to be like, oh, okay, well, you just need a massage, or you just need something to eat, or you know what I mean? And those things can be dismissive. But if I confirm and validate what someone's saying and then say how I actually feel about what I'm hearing, it opens up a true dialogue. And then that's the bridges to understanding, where if there is something that can be done, you know what I mean? A person might be able to find a place or even spark your curiosity about what could make me feel, who do I go to, where do I go to be refueled? Because this is very challenging work, right? So even if it's just like we do certain times of, media fast and different things, but really calling on somebody else to help you with that. Like, hey, if it's COD day, it's Sunday, I'm gonna do a media fast. I'm not just gonna stop taking in media, but I might look for positive media to balance my experience, right? This is how we are healing on that physical, mental, emotional level, is we're looking for, we're talking about balance and communication, we're looking to balance even ourselves, which is why we say communication is per people, places, and things. Because sometimes going out and laying on the ground is communication.
With nature. Yeah, that's our ancient way. Nothing is superior to the Black woman. And when it comes to that, for us as Black men, and I tell brothers all the time, it's a lot of beautiful soldiers out here in the struggle that don't have women. And, when they start talking about the work they doing for the people, I always be like, yo, bro, where's your woman at? And a lot of them be single. And I'm like, yo, bro, you about to die? You about to die dealing with this? You know what I'm saying? You don't have no Black woman. You might want to come off the front lines until you get one, bro. You might want to go back and that's revolutionary science step A that 85% of the brothers is missing. If you don't have a harmonious relationship to shield your own emotional burnout, you're going to be half of the man that you could be in this struggle that you should be. You know what I'm saying? And so, and same for the sisters.
Because it brings balance.
Because it brings balance, and sometimes you just want to play, you just want to have fun, and you don't have, you look, we men, we love each other and we got a certain kind of bond, but we don't play with each other like we do with our women. We all know that. You know what I'm saying? We got to have a different kind of emotional refuel that only comes from women. It doesn't come from our children. That energy does not come from our parents. It doesn't come from our crew. It only comes from her. And if we begin to understand and see that contextually in the hero's journey of the revolutionary, we will understand that that's just like, whenever you see us in art, we always got water. Whenever you see the brothers traveling long distance in art, whether it's carvings or paintings or whatever, they always got the jug of water. An elder told me is that's symbolic of the woman. We never leave without her. We are taking her with us because she is the sustenance. Yeah.
Prepare those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Even when men were going, and even inviting men back. right? There was a sense of this person has been away now from the women and the children fighting, right? So I know that was one of the elements in Sombofu's book, a different book of hers. She said the women would come to greet the men from war topless and be like, give me a hug. Right. Come lay on my bosom and remember that you're coming back into a village of children and women, because too much of the peer-to-peer battle, you know what I mean? We can't interact with each other. And the same with women, you know, like we need the balance that comes with linear thought and direct speaking and direct, you know, behavior. And sometimes we are protective of our hearts, right? Our heart space. So what we do is we say, I'm going to get into that when this and this and this is all lined up. I'll find somebody when we're doing better, when I have more money, when I buy a house, when I finish school, when I, whatever, right?
When I'm dead.
But the truth is that we are going to do all of those things better, faster, if we could be in a relationship, right? And if the relationship is actually thriving. And one of the reasons why it doesn't thrive is because of communication. Most people get together, they want to be together, but it's just you can't harmonize. So that those things that keep you polite in the beginning, or those things that keep you curious in the beginning, everybody settles into their own personality. So the clue is for you to look at every relationship as though it is to elevate your character. You don't want to stay the same. Right. You know, so however great you are, you should be wanting to grow. Right. And if you come in like that, saying, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to grow, it is the only way that I'm going to get outside accountability is from somebody else. No matter how great I think I am and how many goals I set for myself, even if it's the motivation of other people. Black people don't have an individualistic idealism, right? We don't have that perspective that I'm doing this for me and let me just, you know, secure the bag for what? If you secure the bag by yourself, you'll just die with a bag of paper, right? We know it's connected to somebody else, but we sometimes don't say the rest of that and we don't think the rest of that, you know? So like really being able to say, this person is sharing something that's of their heart and of their mind with me. I should be fully present. And that doesn't happen all the time because of our culture, you know, where we're Monwasha and I are guilty of it. We're handling business on our phones. We have to put that away to say, let me talk to my children face to face in there, like make eye contact for 30 minutes.
Let me go in their room.
Multiple times per day. And
like, damn, this your room.
It's true. And we have to do it with each other because we work together, we live together, you know, so even our space, these things are so important because we'll be working in our bedroom, right? So we have to be like, oh, wait, stop. No working in the bedroom because we're crossing these portals that are imaginary.
No
but
TVs, we do have music in the room, and we got our altar in there. The rest is just for rest, love making, retreat, and we take all other distractions out of that room. That's not what that room is for.
These are little subtle things that go back to purpose, your thoughts, the speaking and listening, but also all of the elements and all of, you know, our senses are always being stimulated if we have faculty of them. And even when we don't, there are people who lose a limb and still feel it, right? Everybody's heard of that phantom soldier, you know, situation. There are people who lose sight, but still experience light. Right? Or colors, even if they've had it before.
With sight.
So it's amazing how much we are really experiencing that we're deleting and, you know, distorting all of the time. So all of this comes into play. The average person has like 20 to 50,000 thoughts a day. So when you come and talk to another person, that's 100,000 thoughts potentially in one day. So you have to be able to be clear, but be also like a clean slate every single time. And not be like, oh, I know what that person's going to say. Oh, I know what they mean. They don't even have to finish. Some of those things are the things that build up resentment, whether it's us as a people or us individually or us in our families where we want to be connected, but we're like, last time I tried to talk to him, you know, like we can't really clean the slate and start anew, you know? So we want to open up for any questions about like your communication in general, or what you thought about any of the things that we said so that we can, you know,
I just want to say to Hassan, thank you again, brother. And like Dr. Africa initiated us a few times, and he said, we all of us leaders are doctors. And, you know, in Black culture, you know, from the South, even to the continent, when you're good at something, we call you that. Even if that's like Dr. Sebi is a good example. You know what I mean? Dr. Sebi was definitely a doctor and a healer, but he wasn't you know, a white people approved or whatever you want to say, but we do that, you know, what's up, good doctor? If you got the good word, or if you always inspiring people, like I'm sure you are, Hassan, we call you pastor. What's up, Deacon so-and-so, Deacon Hassan, you know, Pastor so-and-so. We got that kind of energy because we're people that define you by what you do. So I would say that to you, you are a pastor, you are a healer. You are never going to see the moral, I won't say never, but you're not going to see the moral imprint that you leave. You're not going to see the medical or cultural healing that you leave. That's why you need your consort, your counterpart, your counterbalance to be for you what you are for other people. And all of our brothers, that's great, from Marcus Garvey to Malcolm, whoever we look at their greatest, they had that Black queen next to them. And as those sisters told their story, whether it was Amy, whether it was Betty, whoever it was next to Marcus, next to Malcolm, whether it was Frederick Douglass, whoever you went to, John Jackson, whoever, it was always a sister there that was saying, listen, he was a beautiful soul. I was very close with Khalid, and people talk about Khalid's greatness, and they don't talk about his relationships when he was with Khalida, or when he was with, what's her name, the actress, Phyllis, Yvonne Stickney. And then I was around him with his wife when he passed, but she was a new wife, but he was in tune in the conversations that him and I had. He was so in tune with the reality that in order to do this work, you can't look for your payoff from these people you're serving, because you'll die. You will die like that.
It's just bringing balance, you know?
Yeah.
So like, whatever it is, like really being like, you have another intrinsic belief is that there are no people here for wasted space.
Right.
Every single person
Everybody has purpose. Right.
So every
Even these
conversation has purpose, but every person has purpose. So
right.
You coming here at this time to like give your medicine to the planet, there's still something for you to experience as a human being, which is all of the senses and all of the elements. So saying to yourself, this is an amazing time to be here on the planet as a Black person and as a Black man who believes a certain thing and wants a certain thing for all of his people. You have to say, okay, a part of my day still belongs to me.
That's
right. And fueling myself.
That's right.
We talk about, soulmate science, the art and science. But we talk a lot about just soul. You know, what does it mean to be an individual person with a purpose and with gifts and medicine to share? And we also talk about that as an acronym, right? So we say self, others, understanding, and then love, to really talk about those steps to soulmating. And part of it is really nurturing yourself, loving yourself, taking care of yourself, holding yourself accountable as best as you can, so that you meet that person who's on the same path as you, like we saw in the Acoma. But it is not all just like, I'm gonna do everything by myself. Because this is why some of us are dying early. You know, we are sick, we're dying of, heart failure, or we're trying to pacify ourselves with whatever stimulants, right? Like food, drugs and alcohol,
sex.
Entertainment, sex, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're looking for those
get highs.
State changes, right? Get highs. So we're like, look, I'm feeling this way. I need to change. Let me go eat something. Let me go. Right. But that type of thing is really not good over the long haul. And some of us, we've had this feeling for a long time. So we have some of these practices for a long time too. But once you get out of your, 20s, and you're in a different type of metabolic structure, the thoughts even, the practices, the rest practices, the eating, everything changes.
Yeah, them thoughts will tear you up.
It's another thing that we're not taught.
Liver.
In our, we don't get a rite of passage that lets us know what we were doing when we were teens and we were fired up about something. We can still be passionate about it, but the same way we acted when we were 17, we're not going to act when we're 37. Right. And it wouldn't even be appropriate to do. But sometimes we just are like, hey, let me just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And then we're ignoring another special aspect about being a human being at this time. Right. Even in this time, that's crazy, it has purpose, right? So there's a overall purpose, and then our individual purposes, and the purpose of conversation. So all of these are just really, you know, principles that are in Indigenous culture that we don't practice enough in just integrating into our whole life, like holistic living. We might practice it with business, we might practice it with health, with teaching our children, or one thing, but we're not necessarily practicing it from the time we go to what time we wake up to even in our dreams, being intentional with what information we have access to. We have access to everything as Black people, the seen and the unseen. So we need to be able to really use all of that as our toolkit. So anybody want to unmute themselves?
Sister Ray, you had a lot of demonstration, beautiful queen.
Yes, using those thumbs up.
Take that mute off. Let us hear your great voice. You seem like you got a lot of insight. Hopefully.
I'm just agreeing because I'm one of those people who I got to get all of this done before I meet somebody.
Right.
So yeah.
Yes,
and when I reach one, I achieve one goal, then I'm making another goal, and then I'm I'm putting it to the side.
Right.
But I'm realizing more so looking at our brothers and the balance that we bring as women to our brothers, and I'm like, well, why am I still putting it off? Because we need each other. Right. I can say I'm self-sufficient, I can do all these things, but I also am learning that the masculine energy is also necessary to balance me.
Right.
It
allows such beautiful and strong women to be feminine. You know, it allows them to be beautiful, and it allows them to be, you know, Dr. Africa told me something. He said that in the life cycle development, the boys start off as boys, as males, they grow into boyhood, into manhood. But he says that the girls start off as women, and then they kind of move into femalehood as their puberty, but they need the opportunity to become little girls. And if you ever see a woman who is really in love, like I even watch it with Monwasha, she's just a little girl again. She gets to be a little girl, and that real energy is so beautiful, and it's such a I tell brothers that, you know, we have a thing that we have called the Black Love School. It's an online platform, and we do 2 master classes a month, and then we do 2 live calls. We just did
$45.
Yeah, so one is just the men with me, one of the live calls, and then one of the live calls. So we got gender specific, where the women are with Monwasha and the men are with me. And then we got one where the men and women are together. And the brothers and sisters, you could see, you know, the difference. But it's very important, you know, and you're right. And I know you're being kind to the brothers. And I'm going to say to the brothers, because I love the brothers, you know, if you had a rites of passage, you would know that the woman is the most important thing. And if you didn't have a rites of passage, this is a thing, and this is no attack on my brothers because I love them dearly. You're not qualified to be a leader that you think you are. You know, a lot of brothers are leading because they're passionate, not because they're chosen for leadership. The elders elect who are going to be the next leaders because they look at those people and say they have the emotional and mental balance to be a leader, and they're harmonized with their woman and with their family. Some brothers, we just deal with so much oppression under this cracker, and we just like, damn it, I'm going to pick up the charge and da-da-da-da, but you never really got your emotional training together, bro. So when you deal with your people, you're worse than this cracker sometimes. You know, when you deal with your woman, you're worse than these crackers sometimes. You know what I mean? Because you're their Frankenstein. So you have to be qualified for leadership. And Khalid used to tell me to ask brothers all the time, who told you to lead? Which elder told you to lead the people? And I used to do it at one point when I was younger. It used to get me into like, people like, man, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, why are you asking me something like that? And I'm like, yo, I'm just telling you what the elder told me to ask, because a lot of people are in positions that they weren't put in. And in African culture, in Black culture, in nationhood, you will never get put into the leadership because you're fired up. That's not the reason to put you in leadership, and you can't put yourself into leadership. That's why we have rites of passage. The leaders come to you and say, we are choosing you to do this and to do that. And a lot of brothers are doing that without that, you know, the order of operations is out of balance.
We haven't gotten rite of passage, right? So we have to deal with that right now and say to ourselves, we didn't get that rite of passage that we should have gotten when we were 11, 12, 13, 14, but now what are we gonna do? And a very important rite of passage is our relationships, because it's that outside accountability again. So even from the people who might not know what we know, who might not have read what we read, how are you interacting with them? How do you make them feel? How are you accountable when they tell you, hey, that was a little harsh, or you didn't keep your word? Like, what is our response to that? Some of that is the cultivation of our character that then would have us develop into leadership in different ways. So sometimes what happens is a good relationship will refine you, you know, just like a good friendship, the sister to sister relationship. Queen of Foods, Sacred Woman was about refinement, refining the way you speak, refining the way you eat, refining the way you move, refining the way you dress, right? So
brothers think they can do that. Hey, good job, bro. We're supposed to refine each other. Let the women handle themselves. They qualified to be women.
and you know, this is important because
I'm trying to refine her.
Our roles, you know, we as women, we're natural nurturers. So we'll end up nurturing someone and then resenting them because they were acting like their mom, you know? So when we have to nurture from that perspective, there are times when you want to be the little girl. There are times when you're a goddess. There are times when you're, you know, the mother. You know, you're going to play all of those roles. That's another thing about Indigenous culture is every characteristic is within you.
All the archetypes,
that you're now calling, invoking those things to say, hey, now I need the little girl. Now I need to play. Now I need to have fun. Now I need to be organized. Now I'm the soldier. Now I'm the hero. Those
now
things
I'm sensual. All of those things.
Monwasha was talking about. But for us, sometimes we're looking at a relationship as an accessory instead of as a real tool to our character refinement and our development. So we're like, okay, when I'm straight, I will add on, you know, like this is just a new piece of jewelry or a new hat that I'm wearing. And that's not the case. You will not even get to the same places without that level of accountability and without the external refinement. And we know that when it comes to business, we're like, let me get a business partner. Let me get an accountability partner. Let me get a trainer when I go to the gym, because we know that it cuts down us doing the work on our own. Right. If somebody else can check our form at the gym, if somebody else can call us and say, hey, did you take action on whatever it is you're going to take action on? But then when it comes to the personal stuff, and this comes from our history, we're like, oh, I don't want anybody saying anything to me, so I'm not dating for 3 years.
We're vexed with the disease of American individualism. And even in our revolutionary mindset, we're suffering from, I'm going to do it first. And then I'm like, you know, let's all put our sickness in the pot. We all sick, you know what I'm saying? We all trying to get healed. So for us as brothers, it plays out because we live by a superhero ethos the same way that women live by a fairy tale ethos. And, you know, we talk about this in one of our books, superheroism and fairy tale culture. The men from the time we small, whether it's the superheroes, to the arts and entertainment, a lot of our hip hop gods that we've listened to and we constantly quote in their lyrics, all the way to politics and spirituality, the imagery that's being shot to Black men is that you at your best and then you could get a woman, right? So all the superheroes, their dilemma is Batman, Superman, all of them dudes that they jacked our culture for those stories, but you know, we're inundated with them as children. You know, our parents were looking to entertain us. They didn't know any better. If you have a certain age, you know what I'm saying? It might be a little bit different now, but, you know, the messaging with all superheroes is this. You can either be great and save the world, or you can deal with her. And so that's the dilemma that he's dealing with. Superman is, what's the white girl name? Lois Lane? Batman is Vicky Vale. Spider-Man is whatever that cracker name is. They all got one that they dealing with. And it's like, I'm either going to save the world, and then when their nemesis comes along, he knows, I know what your weakness is. It's her. You know what I mean? And so even in enemies, we have a bond as men. And I say, I spoke around the country, and I say this to brothers sometimes. They look at me like I'm crazy. I said, Black men get along more with white men as their enemy than they do their Black women sometimes. And brothers be like, huh? I'm like, yeah, because you're fixated on him. You watch how he moves. You watch what he does. You want to defeat him. You want to pay him back, and rightfully you should. And that's coming. That's his destiny anyway. From the time he was created, he was going to get back what he is, right? But you're so fixated on that, you die before you even get to see it because you don't live long enough. But with a woman, you're going to have more peace of mind, more good food, more sex, more great sex too. Not just more, but more great sex, because you have the love and energy vibration. You're going to understand yourself deeper. You're gonna have more impact with your children, especially for those brothers that have little girls. You're going to have more impact, and the legacy of your life will be more magnetic when you are with a woman. You know what I'm saying? But we will partner up with each other while we're building, and we don't see no problem with that. But we will say, I got to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And, sister said it, but the brothers go through it too. I got to, because we've been taught that all our women want from us is something material. So we feel inadequate because we're in a system that values people based on silly materialism. So we feel inadequate. Like, I want to step to this sister, but I just got laid off, and you know what I mean? As long as you're morally and ethically strong, my G, you're going to get laid off many times. You know how many times I've been laid off in this relationship? You know how many times I've been without a job in these 20 years that we've been together? So I just said, damn it, we got our own job now, and we can't lay ourselves off. And so that has worked for us. But I'm just saying,
but also,
it's just real, yo. You need this queen with you.
And you need to say that I think that there's a certain measure of fear, because we don't talk about relationships. Right. Our parents kind of tell us, how to maybe, if you're a woman, avoid being pregnant. If you're a man, avoid getting taken advantage of, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like we're playing from a fear state that's all defense. But if somebody told you your purpose in life is going to be magnified when you meet your soulmate, everyone would be aiming to do that.
Everybody be hustling.
Instead of it being like
that's the real bag.
Negative thing to be pulled down. This is what everybody eventually understands. Even in those superhero stories, those are modern myth, right? People eventually come to understand that it's better for me to have the balance. Right. Each one of those stories, even in white culture as a comic book, it comes back around to balance. So it might take the whole series, because I used to work at a comic book store. That's how I know this. It might take the whole series, but eventually you're coming back to some level of balance where you're like, hey, I'll develop a whole alter ego. Right. So that on the weekends, I'm going out with the woman that I love, right? Even if it was I'm just putting on the glasses like Superman, but that idea of my purpose in life, I'm more in tune, even to use my strengths and my powers. My character is developed. So I'm more in tune to what's even important from second to second and moment to moment. And sometimes what we're doing is we're working on a lot of things that when most of us are having children or interacting in community. So what happens is it's not in context for the children either. And they either look like, hey, we have dysfunctional relationships, so I don't want one, or it was a waste of time, or it was a lie, or it was all these other types of things. That this is why we're seeing every generation have a different perspective on relationships. Right. So really just saying, whatever happens, a relationship is serving to increase and perfect my character. I have to have a little bit of courage, which comes along with the heart word and Yakoma, and say that whatever happens, I'm growing as a person, so that there's not so much fear about interacting with another human being, another Black person. You can even dissolve peacefully. You can either say, hey, we've grown as much as we can grow together, and now I wish you well. It doesn't have to be such a turmoil that now we avoid getting into it, because a lot of us are, you know, I'm not going to say we're wasting time, because you're always on the path, but we are spending our time by ourselves, where when we move into the next phases of life, we start to realize some regrets, right? Because now we're like, hey, you know, I put in 30, 40 years into the cause, into the mission, and my children grew up without me, or I didn't have this intimate relationship, or, you know, whatever it is, you know, like we start to realize that things are the most important when we're at the end of our lives, you know, or we're in those stages of reflection, right? So it's time for us to really take advantage of our youth, our passion, our energy, our, you know, ability to parent, and do those things from a perspective where we are communicating the truth, which is the truth of our feelings, the truth of our energy, you know, the truth of our passions, the truth of our purpose, the truth of our medicine. And we're not holding back in that. In the relationship that we're in, if we're offering the truth and the relationship dissolves, then that's the end of the relationship. But at least we're authentic. You know, if we're authentic when we are pursuing, if we're not accepted, we've practiced. We've practiced our approach, our pitch, right? So there's never going to be a time when it's not paying off for us.
Yeah. Any more questions? Another question. The
host would like for me to unmute. I don't know why the host wanted me to unmute, but I would like to say, Bibi Fahodier, and this was necessary, a very necessary presentation, and very valuable.
Thank you.
I'm single.
Thank you.
I said I'm single.
Oh, you single? Okay. Hey, you need to. Hey, listen.
Send that private chat. Listen.
That's beautiful. I love to see people say that. If you're a serious nation builder, you're going to mate. And, you know, the Black Love School is $42 a month in the spirit of my eye. And we're really about, we want to teach the art and science because, you know, for so many years, people have asked us, oh, hook me up, you know, and, we want to pre-qualify people. We want to make sure that you got a working foundation, that you know the art and science, that you have a working foundation and you're able to demonstrate where you're coming from morally, ethically, what you're looking for, what you like and dislike, and then how to select a mate, how to harmonize styles, how to resolve conflict, how to legacy build in your relationship. And those things are important. So we teach that, you know, that's what we teach in the Black Love School. And y'all, anybody's welcome to join in. We could put that link in the chat so you can join the Black Love School, $42.
Quickly.
Yes.
I think it's only a few seconds left. It'll cut you off. So.
Okay. Yeah. Put that in there. And but I definitely want to say to the brothers, you know, I'm here for you. Okay. I love y'all and I'm here to help y'all.
And we're so grateful that you all came.
Yes.
You know, if you would like to unmute yourself and say anything, feel free.
Yes, I really appreciate the jewels and the knowledge that you guys have dropped in here. And be for me what I am for other people. I think that's just a powerful message. Allow her to be the little girl. I think that's huge. Accountability is relationship building, and I can apply that to all aspects of my life. So I really appreciate that, from work to social to whatever, right? I think that's huge. Be great and save the world with her by your side, or you can't be great and save the world with her by your side. I think that's a myth that I have oftentimes played that out in my own head. And it's interesting how much the society puts these stories into our head because we're not in control of our own myths, right? So the story of my eye is the true story, and that's a story of balance. So I just appreciate this message today, and I appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you, brother.
We appreciate you.
Wow.
We're so happy to really have real connections with people, because we believe that this is how we are growing, and we are, you know, even in this time, we're really grateful to be able to meet on Zoom, to do things through social media, and to use what we have in modern culture to really, you know, still have our culture thrive, right? So I think it's great to be able to use something like this and have us all connect. And I'm just really grateful that you made it onto the Zoom today. I'm grateful we made it onto the Zoom today.
But we was running, boy. We had a couple things going on. Children in the fray, you know how we all do, you know, but we love y'all. And, you know, if we were valuable at all today, then the ancestors are pleased with us and we at peace with that.
That's
Right.
So where's that reaction?
Right.
That's not our platform.
Doc Maki. Yeah. Intro to O. And my dude that Timbuktu the Ave. Renew your passion, shun the condition, and not the who, what, when, where, and you are from. At last, put the higher